Call the CUB Board of Directors meeting to order. Public comment session. Hearing none, moving to approval of minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to approval of vouchers. Everybody's had an opportunity to look at the vouchers. Do I hear a motion to approve the vouchers?
So moved.
Hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to the approval of monthly reports for April, and I will turn that over to the general manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'll look at your fold-out review, you can see that April, there was a reduction in what we normally would see, and that we attribute to twice a year, we have a month that has 3 payrolls in it. So 26 payrolls a year, and that's going to mean there's at least 2 months that has 3 payrolls in it. This was one which we obviously anticipated and budgeted for. That still puts us $979,000 ahead of the budget for the year, and we anticipate ending very strongly. So we look forward to a very strong financial year. We're right on target in the water and sewer. That's irrespective of the issues that we had with COVID. So with electric sales being impacted, we are still in a very positive position, and we anticipate that to continue through the end of this fiscal year. And I'll be glad to answer any specific questions.
What's the ballpark roughly payroll every couple of weeks cost?
We're looking at probably an electric, for every percent, I would think somewhere in $500,000 range.
Okay. So without that third payroll, you've been in the black this month?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions for that? Mr. General Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would recommend that we approve the financial statements as presented.
Do I hear a motion to approve monthly reports for April?
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to the project status reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In electric, we are tracking 2 projects. You're familiar with these. We've seen these for months now, and I can tell you that we're right at the end of the gate on the West Broad Street and the Carroll Holler. Carroll Holler is 95% complete. We are 100% complete with West Broad Street, and both of those obviously are going to wait for payroll, overhead, stores, and transportation to be assigned to those work orders, and they'll eventually flip over to a closing work order. In the water department, and I'll be backing up if anybody has a question. In the water department, we have long awaited, and now we are 100% through with what we were doing on North Main. We had to wait, as you know, to TDOT to get the final asphalt topping put on. That's been done. TDOT has accepted it, and now that project is 100% complete. And we look to, once we do post to that, payroll, overhead, stores, transportation, that'll go to a closing work order. And that's all I have, unless you have a question.
Any questions about the status report? Hearing none, we'll move on to approval of work orders.
We have 2 work orders I'd like the board to consider. Work order 1275. 1275 is all aluminum cable, and it's an aerial cable, which you notice we are very fond of, and we use an awful lot. That's going to be on Lonesome Dove Road. That is designed because it is a very loaded single-phase line there. We're looking to reduce system losses with that, and that plays in. That's a real dollar impact, but better reliability, and everything we do, we line up to balance with our Flizzer system. This we had in the budget at $170,000. Finally, and of course that was a year ago when we budgeted that for this year's budget. It came in at $168, so essentially we're right on what we had put in the budget. So I recommend the board approve a work order 1275 for the aerial cable on Lonesome Dove Road.
Do I hear a motion to approve the work order?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Anybody have any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries, and we'll move on to the second work order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and this is direct your attention to work order 1280. 1280 is one and all aluminum cable on Stony Fork. It's phase one of this project. This was budgeted at $320,000. When we did the final engineering, we determined that it was going to, with the 10%, come out to $348. So it is about $28,000 higher than what we budgeted, but within that 10% contingency. It's about 1.3 miles of this primary conductor, and again, we identify and target those that are thermal, that are the most loaded. This also would jump up on that scale because it is one that we see a lot of trouble coming out of. In other words, there are a lot of breaks in it. So we're out there a lot. So I recommend the board approve this budgeted item, work order 1280 for aerial cable at Stony Fork Road,
Do I hear-
first phase.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Move on to the approval of the property casualty insurance.
Mr. Chairman, I'll direct your attention, as we do every year, this is an annual process that we go through. We work a lot with Steve Pyatt and his insurance company to try to help pull some additional proposals from other insurance carriers. We get a bulk in from TVPPA, which is the distributor's insurance, and we're not surprised, but they have come in low at $568,598. It's a 5.6% increase over last year, and a lot of that apparently goes to this terrorist coverage. That's beefed up all of that. You will notice, some may notice, that there was a reduction in workers' comp, and that goes to a very positive experience modification. So, with that, we would recommend as lowest and best, that the board approve the insurance proposal from TVPPA and DIC at $565,598.
Do you hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion is second, is there any discussion?
The decline in the workers' comp is a good sign of operations.
Thank you.
That's always a good.
Thank you.
Good thing.
It doesn't take much to
Yeah, I'm sorry.
twitch that the other way, that's
I
right.
don't want to jinx you, but that's a good sign, so.
Mr. Chairman, if you'd like, I'll move on to unclaimed property.
Let's vote on that real quick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Yes, now move.
Thank you, sir. This is easy for us. We do a resolution which is required by the state because we ask for any property that hasn't been claimed, because we used to be able to keep that. But now the state requires that we send, every time we write a check that is the net of deposit and the final bill, we'll write a check. If we never see that back, because some of them are $8, some of them are $12, but some of them are more than that, we send all that money to the state, and then the state holds it. Then after so many years, the state says, well, no one's claimed it here either. So to get it back, you have to do a resolution, and you have to claim it and identify it. We go through the process. It's only $4,000, $4,250.73, but we feel it's worth it because it is our ratepayers' money, and it goes back into our general fund. Although in the future, if anyone ever said, hey, you owe me $12 and here's the proof of that, we'll pay them. That will never stop. But this resolution, I recommend that the board authorize for us to request a refund back from the state for $4,250.73.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second? Motion and a second, any discussion? It's pretty straightforward. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, item 10 on the agenda deals with the Pension Plan Fiduciary Oversight Committee. And before I continue on, I would just like to suggest that with the absence of Dudley, we're moving quite quickly, and I would appreciate if you shared that with him when the next you have an opportunity to see him. So, the approval of the, and what I'll be recommending is, because we met with the oversight, Todd, if you would spin up this page 42 if you can on this review, you'll be able to see from this that we met on May the 26th, by the way. It was very productive, and our pension numbers continue to be very positive. So the market value at March the 31st of this year, $17,942,322.57. And this represents a $714,601.49 gain over the previous quarter. All of that has gone very well. There were no suggestions that we move any of the securities. And if you go to the very next page, Todd, if you can, which is 43, you can see at the bottom, you need to lift that up just a little bit so I can show that standard deviation down there. That standard deviation for the quarter was 1.29 and 11.48 for the year. And as a side note to that, as of today, because we checked today, 6/24/2021, the market value of our pension plan has increased over $1 million since the 3/21 quarter ended. So I'm just saying it's going to be a great first half of the year for our pension fund. We're in a very strong, very positive position, and I recommend to the board that they accept this fiduciary oversight review.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
So, this was something that was implemented at my request, because I felt like the ultimate fiduciary responsibility is us as board members, and that, I think, provides our oversight and our pension fiduciary committee some cover, so to speak. It's fine. It's right in line. It's appropriate for I think the pension. I think it's an adequate balance between the equities and fixed income. It's performed well. It's well diversified. They haven't made any radical changes since we've started. And so anyway, obviously I'm in favor of it. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
As a side note then, Mr. Chairman, if without objection from the board, I would like to include our director, Todd Loggins, onto this committee to introduce him and start giving him some experience in this funding. We've got two accountants on there, and we need a more objective engineering view on that. So without objection, I'm going to add him to that committee.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
I asked Greg Jones, and he said no. So I mean,
Move on to item 11.
item 11. This is, by the time we get to this stage of the year, it's very easy because we have gone through a massive amount of work. This is the, you all get the budget. This is the 3-ring binder that we put our stuff together with, and we literally go through, because every line that you see on your budget represents many lines in accounts. And we go through a process and we weight it. This is something that I designed when I first came here, and it's like Henry Ford, the first Model T. So I put the Model T together, but Dudley has now moved this thing into a Ferrari. And it is so well put together. We share this literally, we've shared it with 50 utilities. Everyone that asks for it, we give them, we really give them the spreadsheet, and then they try to make it happen in their own system, because we all share the same accounts because they're all part of FERC. So what we do is we weight this, we go back in this budget, we go back to 2011, we weight that by the year, putting more emphasis on the most recent years, and then we look at each account. That's one of the reasons why we can come so close to what our operating expenses are and what our maintenance expenses are. Power cost is different because weather can kill us on that. A storm can kill some of these maintenance and operation accounts, but every one of those that fall outside of the deviation for each line, we get an explanation for. So that gives us a great track on that. And so we feel very confident of that. Where we always try to get to then is we look at capital outlay, and you've had that for over a month looking at that. We match that up to this forecasted of funds. If you can find that, Todd, anywhere in that budget, I know now I'm putting you on the spot, I'm sorry. But in that forecasting of funds, we've got $8,500,000 we think is going to, keep going, Todd. We think is going to be available for this next fiscal year. That's it. At the beginning of this fiscal year, $8,500,000, and then we take out some of these restricted funds that are required for payment of the only bond issue that we have left. So when we add back what we anticipate, which is always conservative, for our net income for this next fiscal year, we add back depreciation because that is a non-cash expense. We see we have $15 million then available for capital outlay for the coming year. When we put back in the $6.6 million that you have seen for the last month, we then come to what we anticipate as a conservative cash amount that we'll have at the end of the year. Now, as long as that's positive, we don't have to adjust rates and we don't have to borrow money. And as you can see, it is right in line with what we anticipate we're going to have this year, and that's on electric. So we see no problems with meeting our capital outlay projections, and we would recommend no rate increase, and we don't anticipate borrowing any money to meet this either. And water and sewer, if you go to that same page of funds available, you can see that the anticipated funds at the beginning of the fiscal year, which will be June 30th this year, over $4 million available. What we have in our overnight investment fund, our CDs, and our contingency fund. When we put the proposed net income or net asset return for this next fiscal year and the $1.1 million in depreciation, we're looking at about $5.8 million available for capital outlay. And you know that this year we were very aggressive on what we want to do in this phasing for Riverbend. A lot of money associated with that. We believe we're going to be able to do that with available funds and still come out with a very healthy cash balance at the end of the year. Now, I'm aware that the city and the county, for that matter, has received a significant amount, or going to receive a significant amount if they haven't already, of money that's earmarked by the federal government, and it's earmarked for utilities. And since we're the only utility game in town for the city, I don't know if some of those fundings, I don't know if they're playing utilities, I don't know any other utility they have. We're going to talk to Roger and see what the plan is and see if any of that they have planned to funnel this way. That could help us with this.
The answer is yes, my understanding, we still don't have a full range of knowledge about what all the parameters are, but early indications are that we're gonna have to use it for, I think, water and sewer.
Which would be great because we have a dual project on the downtown Market Street, and that would be just a great use of money and improvements, and the cooperation in a collaborative effort in order to improve not only the utilities on Market Street, but the sidewalks and the roads and everything else associated with it. So that would be great, and my hope to do that. I'm also gonna look, because the county got a significant amount of money. I don't know, they've got municipalities, there's several in the county, but we are the dominant electric supplier, and it would be nice to see the county step up to some of that. I've talked to our county mayor, and some of you all were negotiating with ACWA, and there's a lot of facilities in the Claxton area that we're seeing if there is sense to move forward on how we can better tier the services for those serving in the county as opposed to those customers that we have within the city. And there's a lot of money that's going to move around there, and this would again be another opportunity for the county to help out ACWA and thereby working with CUB in order to make a transfer of assets that is non-financially prohibitive to either utility. So we're just exploring that, and as we get further, I'll bring that back to the board for understanding. I'm going to try to keep our chair and vice chair uniquely up to speed on that, so I don't get ahead of my skis, as they say. So with the budget, with the fact that we projected what we see as items that we want us to do next year, because we've completed most of everything that we've designed to do for this year, and the fact that we're not looking for a rate increase in either the electric or the water department, or water and sewer department, we can fund all of these things, and there's opportunities for even more funds to come, which will lessen that financial impact. I recommend that the board approve the fiscal year 21-22 CUB budget.
Anybody, first of all, before we get into discussion, I have to have a motion and a second. To hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
And to hear a second?
Second.
Okay. I wanted to just draw this board's attention to the last tab. It's been a contentious issue in the past about having what we have, and just everybody take a look. You know, it's general manager's done a good job, and with staff, and they have pay scales, they have the minimum, they have a midpoint, and they have a top out, and so it's just extremely well done, extremely appropriate. I think some past boards have desired this. It's always been included. It's always been included. We're not hiding the ball, but this is just, I think, extremely professional, extremely appropriate, and so a part of this motion to approve the budget, even though I believe it's in my opinion, this is the general manager's sole purview, but I would also like to approve the pay scale, the updated fiscal year 2021-22 pay scales, and so in addition, this motion is not only. Let me back up. Do I hear an amended motion to approve the CUB budget as presented? This motion will include updated the pay scale, as well as including a 3% colon 2% merit adjustment for the general manager. I need a motion for that.
So moved.
A second. Okay. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? I'd like for all the board members to weigh in if they feel appropriate.
I'm very impressed with the booklet that we have. I think that is very self-explanatory, that I think it's easy to understand and easy to approve. I appreciate what you do, what your team's done. This is good information, thought out information.
Thank
and
you.
Well prepared, like Zach said.
Well, It's really easy to understand. A lot of the, you and I both have gone through budget processes in various organizations, and sometimes it's just overwhelming, the information that you receive. And if you don't have financial background, it's hard to tell sometimes what's going on. It's concise, it's easy. I love the charts. Anyway, great job, great budget. Anybody have any other discussions, any thoughts?
I think this is, well, just looking at the pay scales and things like that, I think it's well done. I think it's appropriate. I think it gives people room to grow within their pay scales. You don't necessarily enter at a midpoint or top out, within a certain amount of years or something like that. But it's I think it's well put together. I'm familiar with this type of system, and it works. I mean, it works. It's a pay for performance type of system that you can get people not just to lay down and that they have to work to earn their merits. And
I appreciate that too,
I fully approve.
Steve. What we do is we bring in the top folks and then we pay them. But everybody has to make a contribution greater than what they extract out of the company, or it's a non-starter for us. So wherever we're at, I always justify that because I can literally delineate the contribution in terms of dollars that they make to the company. And certainly our people do it, and where we rank, and I appreciate some of you came by, some of you who didn't have that opportunity. I put together, and I'll be glad to hand this out to you. But each one of these, you review this, and I think you could feel really good about who we are, what we do, and why we justify where we're at.
Well said. Steve, do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a broken record when we come in here around this time of the year, but I mean, you guys do a great job. There's no question. The entire staff does. We're lucky that we've got leadership like y'all in place to help us and keep this thing going, and even in spite of, Greg sometimes. I know that's a challenge. But, I think
It's true.
I mean, look, he bragged, we're 15 minutes later than we were, and we're almost done. But I do think you guys do a great job. This entire group does a great job. We're very fortunate. We're financially in a good position. You're in a good spot relative to repair and replacement. I look, and the organization is run extremely well. The HR side of this is working well, from my perspective. Like Steve said, that we're all used to these kind of approaches. And so y'all do a great job, and appreciate everything that y'all do. So.
Thank you.
I think it all boils down to the front page of this right here.
Right.
CUB provides low rates, great service, and high reliability. I mean, that's what you shoot for, and that's essentially what I see, each time I come in and sit down in here. And that's not a couple other things that have hit me of this past year that have impressed me is the safety record that we have here at CUB, and as well as being able to go through this COVID issue. It's I know it wasn't easy to send people home and give them laptops and still provide the type of service and that the people of Clinton deserve. So I applaud you on being able to handle a most difficult year, at least from my perspective.
I can thank you on behalf of everyone that works here. We appreciate the fact that the board is supporting us, what we do. First of all, that they have the same vision, and they are engaged enough to appreciate what we do.
With that being said, is there any more discussion?
Well, the one thing I want to say that I forgot to say a while ago, but I appreciate the comparisons that you do for CUB to other utilities. You don't know where we stand till we compare ourselves to other people, other utilities. And, the debt that we don't have in comparison to others, and the way that we're able to pay our employees and our expectations, and then we keep good ones. And you all are doing a great job in providing great service and stewards of taxpayers' money. So I appreciate all that.
You said something that made me, it just gave me a thought. A lot of people erroneously believe that CUB is well, it's a monopoly. I mean, what else, you know, do you expect? But that just is not true, because we can look at the shape of these other so-called monopolies. They're not in the shape that we're in. And I mean, you speak to the debt, you know, so if it was just as easy that Greg and his folks come down and flip on a light switch, then all these other utilities, wouldn't they perform as well as us? They don't. And we can tell by measurable, measurable, repeatable, observable goals and stats, whether it's debt, whether it's rates, whether it's outages. You pick the category that you want to compare us to others, and we're going to exceed every time. Not just meet those, we're going to exceed those expectations. And I think, again, Steve Combs has mentioned that we got to do a good job of educating the public. That's just going to be an ongoing problem. So, but that is a call for us to do. And when you do meet somebody that thinks it's just that easy, ask them to look at some of the debt of some of our fellow utilities.
Mr. Chairman, because we're okay on time, and since you brought that specific thing up, I've got a slide if you care to see it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Because I showed.
Can we vote on this real quick before I forget?
Absolutely.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we're moving into other business.
I'll just be brief on this. Like I say, some of you had the opportunity to see this, so I won't go through it all. I do have a hard copy for those that didn't have an opportunity. And of course, you already know what our goals are. But there's one of the comparisons that you've seen where we stand. We're less than half of the average cost of any utility around here in water and sewer, less than half. No rate increases. Our debt is a contributing factor to low rates. We retired 3 bonds early. We're sitting on one bond at $6.5 million in electric, 0 in the water, and we're 19. Oak Ridge is 19 times more in their debt to customer ratio. KUB 22 times. Lenoir City's 5 times more than that. That's the comparison. Line loss is something that you don't see very often, and we make reference to it, but here's where we compare with line loss. We're at 3.26%. Lenoir City's a little skewed because of Turkey Creek, but you can see it goes all the way up to 6.22. Oak Ridge is at 5.53%. Where that means in real dollars. Were we at the same line loss as these folks? And the more customers you have per line, the lower the line loss ought to be. We're at 15 or 16, and Oak Ridge is at 58 or 60. So they should be much lower. Had we the same line loss as Oak Ridge, our bottom line would be impacted by $1.3 million to the negative. You see, even Lenoir City we would have to pay $400,000 more for our power. If you go to Harriman, it would be $1,700,000. Now they're smaller than we are, and that kind of money, you can imagine why the rates have to be adjusted in order to offset this line loss that they have. So when you compare us out, that makes a difference. Our virtual power plant, just this year alone, it's over $1 million. Just this year is over $1 million in savings. We've got the partnership credit for this year alone is over $1 million, $76,000 in April. We're almost at $2 million since we got into that. All of that goes to keep our loss down. And of course, I've said Flizzler more times than I want to say. I'm starting to say Twizzler. But the fact is that has lowered the national average for system average interruption duration, the time you're out of service. The national average is 69% higher than what we are. The national average for how often we're out, we're 33 or 31% lower than that, and that's due to Flizzler. These are you don't make these numbers up. So that's what makes the distinction, which we can, and of course through COVID, as was mentioned, 659 working days were affected in terms of man hours for this COVID. We never were closed. Always open. Our lobby was open almost all the time. Our driveway was open all of the time. And no, we didn't skip a beat, and there wasn't one capital project that we didn't complete on time and under budget. So we're doing great things with TVA on solar. I won't go through all of that. I just wanted to, since you brought up the comparison, there are comparisons that we haven't looked at, like the line loss and the big dollars that makes to the ratepayers at Cub. And in every aspect, I'm telling you, and anywhere that any drawer that you open up, it ought to be a positive for you, and it won't be a negative. So that's what we bring to the table, and that's what the team brings to the table.
Yep. That's good, that's well said, I couldn't say it better.
Hey Greg, I know you shared this, tell everybody, especially so we can get it on the public TV. Our loss of power in that storm last week compared to Knox County.
Well, of course, we start looking at it right away. This is the one that we just went through. We had everybody back on that night, and what we do is these are what I call onesies.
Yeah. And this, excuse me for interrupting, that Monday night storm is what I meant this week. That's what you're
Yes.
talking about.
Yeah.
I said
That's right. Yeah. 6 poles. 6 poles went down. Each pole takes a crew about a half a day. And what distinguishes us from some is we don't leave the one out. I mean, how many onesies did we have? Maybe 3 or 4 or 5?
Onesie as far as just individual
Yeah.
outage, probably half of the 60 outages we had were probably onesies, twosies.
Ones and
threes.
twosies.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the onesies, where just one person's out. Sometimes it's 2 because it's one transformer. They're off of that. We don't leave them. We had 60, how many cases
Approximately
of trouble?
59, 60
Yeah.
different cases of trouble.
So, which means spread out over the system, we don't have 60 trucks, you see. So we're out there getting it. And everybody was home. Everybody was home. Everybody but one, and he was out of pocket. Everyone but one employee came in. They came in to work to get the power back on. That speaks to loyalty to the system, you see. I mean, they don't want to do that. We've got people that have given notice one guy's going back to Texas. He came in, you see. I mean, it's not something that they want to do in a thunderstorm. We got everybody back on, and as I'm looking, I know KUB had, I don't know where they peaked, but at one time I looked, had 10,000 out, I mean, at our peak we had about 1,000, but mostly at 400 range, and then we fought the fight down from the 400. But we had everybody back on the next day, and when I looked, KUB, it was over 1,000 still out, and they've got contract crews and everybody in there. That distinguishes us because our onesies and twosies and 6s and 8s all were in the Flizzer where we backfed everyone. And I mean, Clinton survived very, very well, but when you're Stony Fork, which is one of the things that we had down here we're replacing that line, Stony Fork was out. And how long does it take to get there, Todd?
An hour just to get there.
An hour windshield time just to get there. Were they on before daylight? They were on before daylight because we were committed. And I told the customers, because now I've woken up to, is that a word, woken up? I'm awake to the fact that online social media is a thing. And now I'm communicating with some folks, hey, my power's out, and I'm on there trying to get back to them, and they are very appreciative, very appreciative. We do it, and we do it right. We're proud of it, but other than me, because I'm very humble, we don't try to boast on it, but it's true.
I just thought the speed at which CUB always gets our folks back up and running on electricity when it's out is very impressive compared to what other.
And I think that our customers are beginning to realize that there's a difference because they have family on these other systems, or they moved from another system, and it's a wow factor.
Is there any other business to come before this board?
I just would want to tell you, and very quickly, really would have liked to have that right at the top of the thing, and if I don't, I'm just going to make it up. On continued discussions with ACWA on addressing the wholesale sales and realignment of service. I've told you about that. And once again, I wanted to remind you that we participate, and CUB will again participate, in the Tennessee Valley Lineman Rodeo. The rodeo is a 2-day competitive event, started in 1998, and it is for the employees of TVA Power Distributors. The rodeo includes competitive events for apprentices, journeymen, in teams of 3, individual linemen, senior individuals, seniors considered over 45, by the way, and it recognizes and rewards excellence in safety, skill, knowledge in the field. And we generally do print up for T-shirts for them, and their family goes. It's in Jackson, in September. So we're going to participate as we do in other. It's a good morale thing. It's a ballast because the more go, the happier we're thinking our guys are, and we've got a slew of them going.
Great news. Any other business to come before this board? Hearing none, I will adjourn this meeting.